Scroll through your feed right now. Someone just landed in Bali. Someone else just unboxed a new iPhone. Someone's sitting in a car that costs more than most people make in 3 years. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet, uncomfortable thought shows up. Why am I not there yet? Here's what nobody's telling you. Most of what you just watched wasn't wealth. It was a performance of wealth. And the gap between those two things is where an entire generation is quietly going broke. This isn't a video about hating on anyone. This is a video about seeing clearly. Because once you understand how the illusion is built, you stop competing with it and you start building something that's actually yours. Let's start with a fact that should change how you scroll forever. What you see online is not a random sample of people's lives. It's a curated highlight reel, edited for one purpose: to look impressive to strangers. Think about the mechanics. Nobody posts the EMI reminder. Nobody posts the credit card minimum due. Nobody posts the anxiety of checking a bank balance before it hits zero. They post the trip, not the loan that funded it. They post the outfit, not the buy now, pay later, split into 4 payments. They post a new car, not the 7-year loan sitting behind it. This is what economists sometimes call conspicuous consumption, spending done specifically to be seen, not because it improves your life. The Bali trip isn't for you. It's for the 40 people who see the story. The new phone every year isn't about function. Last year's phone still works fine. It's about status signaling. And the tragedy is, most of the people funding this performance can't actually afford it. They're financing a story about their life, not living one. Here's the part that makes it worse. This entire system runs on debt that's been made invisible. A car loan doesn't feel like debt when you're driving it. It feels like ownership. A no-cost EMI doesn't feel like a loan. It feels like a discount. Buy now, pay later doesn't feel like borrowing. It feels like a smart hack. The financial industry has spent the last decade removing the feeling of debt while keeping the actual debt fully intact. So people are drowning, but it doesn't feel like drowning. It feels like living well. And there's a second layer to this that rarely gets named: rental culture dressed as ownership. The designer bag borrowed for one shoot. The car that's actually leased, not owned, and returned before the real cost ever shows up on camera. The collab trip that was gifted, not paid for, in exchange for a few posts. When you don't know the terms behind what you're seeing, your brain fills in the most expensive possible explanation because that's the story being told to you. You're not just comparing yourself to other real lives. Sometimes you're comparing yourself to arrangements that never involved anyone's actual money at all. Now let's go one layer deeper, because the why here matters more than the what. Humans are wired for social comparison. It's not a character flaw, it's biology. For most of human history, your status in your tribe determined your access to resources, mate, and safety. So your brain evolved to constantly, automatically track: where do I rank compared to the people around me? The problem is, that system was built for tribes of maybe 150 people you actually knew. Now you're comparing yourself to a curated feed of thousands of strangers, influencers, and acquaintances, all of whom are also performing their best possible moment, filtered and selected from hundreds of unposted ones. You are comparing your unedited behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. That comparison was never fair, and it was never supposed to happen at this scale. There's a psychological pattern called the hedonic treadmill, the idea that people quickly adapt to new levels of pleasure or luxury and return to a baseline level of satisfaction no matter how much they acquire. The new bag, the new car, the upgraded flight, they spike your mood for a few days, sometimes a few hours, and then your brain resets and wants the next thing. This is precisely why lifestyle spending never feels like enough. It's not designed to. And here's the part almost nobody says out loud. A huge amount of visible spending isn't about enjoying life. It's about managing how other people perceive you. Psychologists call this impression management. People will go into debt not for pleasure, but for the fear of being seen as behind, poor, or unsuccessful. The purchase isn't the goal. The perception is the goal. The item is just the tool. The real math behind the flex. Let's actually run the numbers, because vague awareness doesn't change behavior. Specific math does. Take someone earning a solid, above average salary. On social media, they look like they're winning. In reality, a large share of that income is often already claimed before they even see it. Rent, a car EMI, a phone EMI, credit card minimums from the last few treat yourself purchases, and subscriptions they forgot they're paying for. What's left after all of that is sometimes a number small enough that one unexpected expense, a medical bill, a phone repair, a family emergency, pushes them into more debt. This is what financial educators call being income rich, balance sheet poor. Your income can be genuinely good, but if your net worth, what you actually own minus what you actually owe, is flat or negative, you are not wealthy. You are cash flowing a lifestyle. And cash flowing a lifestyle only works as long as the income keeps flowing, with zero room for disruption. That is not stability. That is a high wire act with no net, dressed up to look like success. Run a simple version of this math yourself. Say someone takes home a salary that sounds impressive to friends. Rent takes a third. A car EMI takes another chunk. A phone EMI, a couple of subscription services nobody remembers signing up for, and the minimum due on a credit card used for last month's treat yourself purchases take another slice. By the time all of that clears, what's left to actually save or invest is often in the single digits as a percentage of income, sometimes close to nothing. Meanwhile, the version of that same person visible online looks like someone with money to spare. The math and the image are telling two completely different stories, and only one of them is true. Now, compare that to actual wealth building, which is almost aggressively unglamorous. It looks like an index fund contribution nobody will ever see. It looks like an emergency fund sitting untouched, earning basically nothing exciting, doing its one job of protecting you. It looks like a car driven for 10 years instead of upgraded every 2. It looks like the same phone for 4 years. None of this photographs well. None of this gets likes. That's exactly why almost nobody shows it, and exactly why almost nobody is doing it. There's a concept called stealth wealth. The idea that a lot of genuinely wealthy people spend far below what they could, specifically because they understand that visible spending and actual net worth are often inversely related. The person quietly living below their means for a decade, investing the difference, usually ends up with more real freedom than the person financing a louder version of the same decade. Let's put a face on this, because numbers alone don't stick. A story does. This isn't one specific person. It's a composite of a pattern that repeats constantly. Picture two people, same age, same city, same starting salary. Call them person A and person B. Person A gets their first real paycheck and immediately upgrades everything. New phone on EMI. A car loan because you need to look a certain way for your career. A better apartment than they can comfortably afford because it photographs well. Dinners out, documented. A wardrobe refresh every season. On the outside, person A looks like they've made it. Online, person A looks like the standard for success. Person B gets the same paycheck and does something deeply unremarkable. Keeps the same phone, keeps living with roommates a little longer than feels exciting. Automates a chunk of every paycheck into investments before touching the rest. Says no to some invitations. Posts almost nothing about money because there's nothing performative to post. 5 years pass. Person A has a great wardrobe, a car that's now worth half what they paid, credit card balances that never quite hit zero, and a growing, quiet dread every time a big expense shows up. Person B has an unremarkable Instagram and a bank account that could actually handle a job loss, a health emergency, or a bold career move without collapsing. Run the 5 years forward again, slower this time. Person A's car has depreciated for 5 straight years while the loan on it kept accruing interest the whole way, paying steadily for an asset that was shrinking in value every single month. Person B's modest, consistent investing had 5 full years to compound, meaning the growth in year 5 was building on top of growth from years 1 through 4, not starting from 0. This is the entire game, reduced to its simplest form. One person's money was shrinking while looking big, and the other's was growing while looking small. Neither person is a villain here. This isn't a morality story. It's a system story. One of them was optimizing for how their life looked. The other was optimizing for how their life actually functioned. And functioning quietly compounds, while looking impressive, quietly drains. The comparison trap from the viewer's side. Now flip the camera to you, watching all of this from the outside. Every time you see the trip, the car, the outfit, and don't know the debt behind it, You're making a decision based on incomplete information, and your brain treats it as complete. You start benchmarking your real financial situation against someone else's fictional one. That's not a fair comparison. That's not even a real comparison. You're comparing your actual bank balance to someone else's edited storyline. This is where a lot of financial anxiety in your 20s actually comes from. Not from being genuinely behind, but from measuring yourself against a reference point that was never real to begin with. You feel behind because the goalpost you're using was manufactured to be unreachable. It's not that you're doing badly, it's that you're using a broken ruler. The fix isn't to stop caring about your finances, it's to stop outsourcing your definition of doing well to a feed built to make everyone feel slightly behind all the time on purpose. Because that feeling is what keeps people watching, comparing, and buying. What actual wealth looks like. So if the visible version is mostly theater, what does real financial progress actually look like? It looks like knowing your number, your actual net worth, calculated honestly, at least once. Most people have a rough sense of their salary and almost no sense of their net worth, which means they're optimizing for the wrong metric entirely. Income is what you're paid. Net worth is what you're actually building. Confusing the two is one of the most common and most expensive mistakes in your 20s. It looks like an emergency fund before an upgrade. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses sitting somewhere safe and boring, specifically so a bad month can't turn into a bad year. It looks like automating investing before you get a chance to spend it, treating your future self as a bill you pay first, not a hope you get to later so the money is gone before lifestyle creep can claim it. It looks like separating identity from possessions, understanding that a car, a phone, or a wardrobe is not evidence of your worth or your trajectory, and that the compulsion to prove otherwise is usually fear wearing a nice outfit. And it looks like patience with something that has zero visual payoff for years. Compound growth is famously unimpressive at the start and famously enormous over time, but only for the people who weren't chasing something flashier in the meantime. None of this will ever trend. None of this will ever get the reaction that a new car does. That's the trade, visible now or real later. Very few people get both at the same time, and almost everyone performing wealth online has quietly chosen the first one, usually without ever consciously deciding to. Here's the shift that actually changes your trajectory, and it's less about willpower and more about redirecting the same impulse that's currently working against you. That drive to look successful isn't a flaw you need to kill. It's fuel. The question is only where you point it. Right now, for a lot of people, that drive is pointed outward, toward how life appears to strangers. The shift is pointing that same competitive, status-seeking energy inward, toward a number only you can see. Compete with your own net worth from last year. Compete with your own savings rate from 6 months ago. Let the scoreboard be private and let it be real. Practically, that means before your next big purchase, ask one honest question. Am I buying this because I want it or because I want to be seen having it? That single question, asked consistently, will save more money over your 20s than almost any budgeting app. It means treating your income increases as an opportunity to build, not an automatic invitation to upgrade, because lifestyle expands to fill whatever income arrives unless you deliberately interrupt it. And it means accepting that your actual financial life for the next several years might look boring from the outside while it becomes genuinely strong on the inside. That trade is available to almost anyone. Very few people take it, because it doesn't come with applause. It comes with a number that eventually, quietly, changes everything. The people who post the loudest lives are not necessarily the people building the strongest ones. Some of them are. Most of them are financing a story, one payment at a time, for an audience that will forget the post within a day. You don't have to opt out of enjoying your life to opt out of that game. You just have to stop letting a feed set the term for what doing well means. Check your real number, protect it, grow it quietly, and the next time you feel that familiar pull, the one that says everyone else has already figured this out, everyone else is already ahead, remember what you now know about how that feed is built. You are not behind a real leaderboard. You are behind a highlight reel, edited by people who are, in a lot of cases, further behind than you, just better at hiding it. Because in 5 years, nobody will remember the trip you posted. But you will absolutely feel the difference between a life that was funded and a life that was actually built. One of those two people gets to stop performing eventually. The other has to keep the show running forever, because the moment they stop, the illusion collapses. Choose which one of those you're building toward. starting with the very next purchase you're about to make.